So we take streets to get up to Broadway. There was thousands of people in the street, carrying chairs, carrying refrigerators, carrying TVs. How are we going to arrest all these people, you know? So I says, let's get the cars over here. Take what we can take, and the rest of it, you know, the hell with it. We're putting 2 and 3 guys in the back seat. We're putting televisions in the trunks. We're putting televisions in the back seat on their laps. Sometimes we're putting 2 guys in the trunk and closing the trunk and transporting him to the precinct. Guys were making arrests left and right, and there were shots being fired. We were firing back. You know, wherever we would see a flash, boom, we open up in that direction. We were saying, we need more ammo. And the words were no longer out of my mouth. Then here comes emergency service. They start throwing us boxes of ammo, hundreds of rounds, and we're loading up. And the exchange of gunfire continued.
I remember getting on top of a bus. I started yelling to the crowd. I said, the world is watching, and cool down. Everybody's got to go home. The lights will be on soon. Everything's going to be okay. I never figured that even as hard on its luck as New York was, that the veneer of civilization was that thin, that people who were marginal people, or even in their regular lives law-abiding people, suddenly became this crowd of anarchists in it for themselves. The, you know, Jekyll and Hyde personality came out, and people that you would never expect, the housewives, some of them. I mean, not all by any means the minorities either.
I'm bugging out because church-going, upstanding citizens, the ones you know are teachers and doctors and in the community, they are now reduced to looters, thieves, and rioters. I was shocked. I was afraid. I was frightened at the sound of glass breaking, cars screeching, guns going off, and get away from my door.
When it was all over, I said to myself, my God, how many bodies are they gonna find? They didn't find a single body, not one.
They talk about the riots, but the fact of the matter is very few people were killed, if any, were killed during that time. People weren't turning that violence outward toward, they were doing violence to property. And they were doing violence to property specifically because they had problems with the people that owned the property.
Most people went to bed that night really not knowing what was happening around them. So people woke up the next morning, and I think there was this sense of shock. The power was still out. And the other problem was that the police had arrested thousands of people, and there was nowhere to put them.
They had to open the tombs, I remember. A prison that had been closed for many years, and people were getting bitten by rats and stuff because that place had been closed for so long.
What's going on? My mother sat me down. She said, son, when there is no light, man is reduced to animal. I began to look at people deeper than what they were showing me on the outside at age 12. It's when I became a man.
People's actions, you know, were brought on by their conditions. The message to the city is that we need help here. We're doing bad. There's nothing here for us. There's no jobs. We're housing, you know, health care, nothing. You know what I mean? We at the end of our rope. We are just surviving by a thread.
July 14th, New York City, early morning. It was a night of no electric power, a night of no lights, elevators, subway trains, air conditioning, traffic signals, or televisions. What the city did have in the dark streets was a wild outburst of crime, arson, looting, mugging, and 1,000 false fire alarms.
I think it's really disgusting, you know? It makes you really want to throw up when you look at what's happened. And we got to live here. It's no place for us to go.
Take out everything. I lost all my money. I worked about 10 years for this. I lost everything.
I can't talk. Everything is gone. Everything.
The cops were inadequate, didn't have enough of them, and I urged Mayor Beam to ask for the National Guard, and I meant it. I don't think you should be able to destroy the property of other people with impunity, particularly the people who lived in Brooklyn who owned stores. They were poor themselves.
As New Yorkers get ready to vote, Mayor Abraham Beam is in big trouble.
I know that I'm not usually known for any public exhibitions of temper, but I want you to know I'm damned angry.
A. Beam is an incompetent mayor. Should never be reelected. And he can't run a second-class candy store, and that's the way he's run New York City.
That election came to be seen, I think, as an election for the soul of the city in the future, because there was this whole feeling that the people that ran the city had lost completely any control they may have had.
Mr. Mayor, what should have happened here if police saw looters in this man's store right in front of them? What should they have done?
Obviously, one would answer that they should have arrested the person. But I think we ought to find out what the answer was.
Well, this man was here. What happened?
The police said, stay outside, let them take what they want. You'll get hurt.
You had the feeling that if the lights went out again, that everything you had was up for grabs. Your possessions, your family, the sanctity of your space. And Koch was ruthless in his perception of the anxiety that New Yorkers suffered and his prescription for fixing it.
How am I doing? I need your help.
Yes.
Am I going to get your help?
Yes.
Thank you. Look at where we agreed. 1, the death penalty.
The Son of Sam issue rises to the top in the summer, as does the blackout. The city is gripped with crime. It has these extraordinary events. And it was really at that point that Koch became the death penalty candidate for mayor. That's when he seized on it, and he would whisper to people, I have to do it. It's the only way I can get in.
In the tight race, Koch has taken a narrow lead and gained the endorsement of the New York Post and Daily News, while Mayor Beam, suffering a dramatic dip in approval after the blackout, struggles to bring calm to a city in turmoil.
The people of this city know and understand that we can improve the quality of life here in our city.
We had soaring murder rates. We had a city that was really gripped with every form of crime. And, you know, the quality of life violations would never even occur to anybody. The quality of life was supposed to be violated.
Hi, swingers. We're Larry and Mary, co-owners of Plato's Retreat, the only on-premise swing club in New York.
We're a couples-only private chartered club. On our premises, we have 3 separate air-conditioned swing rooms, 2 whirlpools, disco music, and a lounge area with sofas and pillows.
There is absolutely no pressure at our club.
Larry Levinson created Plato's Retreat. He was a slob.
He was a these, them, and those kind of dummy of a guy. He and his wife at the time had little swing parties. It was in the air privately, and somehow they parlayed that into a public club, the first so-called swing club, and soon to become the most successful one ever.
You might go to Plato's Retreat, and you'd look into the orgy room, and there'd be literally 100 people, a sea of naked bodies having sex.
This was at the height of the disco era, so Plato's was indeed like a disco.
Plato's Retreat was like Studio 54 in the sense that it was also cost-free. No AIDS, no addiction, no law enforcement interference. Sex is good, sex is great. Sex with anonymous strangers allows you to fulfill fantasies that only a multimillionaire might otherwise be able to.
I would go to Plato's Retreat, and everyone went there for the sex. Sometimes the coke. I wasn't a big drug user, but I went there for the buffet.
Very good buffet. I personally like the buffet better than sex at Plato's Retreat.
I think people were really interested in sexual exploration.
And seeing 200 couples having sexual intercourse on the big mattress, it was paradise. It was sex at its best, and I was part of it.
Larry Levinson, what made you organize, originate Plato's Retreat?
Couples that want to be free-thinking, free-living adult couples. They don't believe in monogamous relationships. They would rather get involved with other people, but together with their spouses.
You do it in public view, and you mix it up with strangers. Isn't there something very sick about that?
It's certainly not sick. It is a victimless activity.
Why is it? No, I find it revolting.
In 1977, you had maybe 10 to 15,000 riders just blasting all over the city. You had every train covered with the most beautiful murals.
Should be cleaned, and the ones that are caught should be cleaned. They should clean it. The ones that they catch are doing that.
What's the sense of paying 75 cents when you have to ride graffiti trains, you know?
It's a violation of public property.
I think it's disgusting.
We should at least get somebody to clean up the damn place.
We move 3.5 million people a day. They have rights too.
I think a lot of the artistic expression became ultimately destructive, and I think graffiti is a good example of that. People would not go in subway cars that were marked up because there was a fear of lawlessness, and I think it added to the paranoia.
In 1977, I was 20 years old, and I became king of the subways because